The iPhone 16 is officially out in stores today, and I got to check it out and spent a very small amount of time with it, but enough to give you my initial first impressions on some of the new features like camera control and the other camera features like the new photographic styles, audio mix, and more. This year, the iPhone 16 gained a few new buttons. We have the action button from last year's 15 Pro. It's now making its way on down to the non-Pro devices. And so now we have this action button over the mute switch. If you head into settings, you'll be able to select from a wide range of different options, like turning that button to make it turn the flashlight on, open the Translate app, or you can set it to a custom shortcut. But there's also a new iOS 18 wrinkle this year, and that's being able to set the action button to any control center function that you might have, and that's pretty useful. I used to have mine set to launching the camera app, but that's no longer needed now that Apple has added this camera control button here on the right side of the phone. So my first impressions on this button are a little bit all over the place because there was some confusing information surrounding camera control and whether or not it's actually a physical button or a capacitive. It turns out it might be a little bit of both, a hybrid physical button with touch capacitive capabilities. So I'm a little less impressed with the feeling of this button because when I first pressed it, I thought it was just purely capacitive and it felt like a physical button. But I guess I am impressed with Apple's commitment to over-engineering niche features. Now, as much as I like the idea of this button, I will say the placement is not as comfortable as I thought it would be, and it's not as intuitive right out of the box here. If you had no idea about this button at all and you were just kind of figuring it out as you go along, it's going to take some time to get the right amount of pressure needed for each gesture. I thought the button placement was going to be also like in the perfect spot, considering that it seems like it's where your thumb's going to go when you naturally hold your phone. But I do actually think it's a little bit low for me. It's kind of awkward. It is in the perfect spot if you turn your phone horizontally, but again, it's just going to take some time to get used to where it is and how to use it. So a quick refresher here on how to actually use it. A full normal press of the button will launch the camera app. And then if you press down again, you can take a photo, but if you long press, you'll launch into video mode and you got to keep it held down to take a video. And that's all fine, but it's the double taps and the lighter presses that are just a little bit harder to nail down. So when you do eventually get a lighter press in there, you'll see that you can swipe through various camera settings like ISO, depth control, and you can even zoom in and out by just, again, swiping from left to right on top of that button. But it's a swipe that requires a little bit more force than you normally would think. When it works, I think it's really cool and I think it could be really useful, but I also think it's kind of frustrating, and if you're trying to figure it all out, you might just not want to and just use the on-screen controls instead. Now, when you flip the camera horizontally, as I mentioned before, I think this button makes a little bit more sense. It's a bit more fluid. It's a little bit more of a natural experience. It's where you would think on like a point and shoot camera where you think your finger would be to go ahead and click and shoot. Like it just makes more sense. But the problem is everyone nowadays seems to shoot in portrait for the most part. And so I think it's just, again, it's really going to take some time. You're going to have to get used to it. Don't give up on it right away. Just give it a chance, and I think it could be super useful, especially when third-party developers get their hands on it and can start implementing it to its own apps. Later this year, we'll get another feature that could make this a little bit more useful, and that's visual intelligence, which users can launch by pressing the camera control button, pointing their camera at a subject, and then you'll get more information about whatever it is that you might be looking at. Now, before we continue with the rest of this video, I do want to take a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, ESR. My favorite thing about the new iPhones over the past few years, or really since it's been implemented, has been MagSafe and all of the cool MagSafe accessories that are out there. And ESR has a few new options for the new iPhone 16 lineup that are now Qi 2 enabled, and they are absolutely fantastic for all different types of charging scenarios. For those on the go, you have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery pack with a kickstand. That's great for viewing content in both portrait and landscape. Perfect for those charging but want to continue watching content on your phone or just need a place to dock your phone. This battery pack is ultra slim, only 15.5 millimeters thick, which is 38% slimmer than the competitors out there. And thanks to NTC sensors and an AI algorithm, there's constant temperature monitoring to keep the power bank below 99 degrees, which most batteries like this are actually hovering around 118 degrees. So we're going to be keeping things so much cooler in your pocket. The 15-watt MagSafe charging can also charge an iPhone 15 Pro to 84% in only 2 hours and 25 minutes, while a standard 7.5-watt power bank can take up to 3 hours just to get to 77%. There's also a new 3-in-1 stand for your desk or nightstand that can also charge at 15 watts, giving users a full charge in only 2 hours, and it's packed with Cryo Boost cooling to keep your phone cool while charging faster than the competition. And there's even fast charging for your Apple Watch, all at an affordable price. I also love that there's a spot for your AirPods here at the bottom. That's what makes it 3-in-1. And if you actually just want 2-in-1, you can remove the Apple Watch part of the charger if you don't think it's necessary for your setup. And last but not least, there's even a 15-watt MagSafe charger for your car that also has the same Cryo Boost technology, because charging in my car is super hot, and so this will help you keep things cool. So check out ESR's fantastic lineup of MagSafe charging accessories for your new iPhone by visiting the links in the description down below. Thanks ESR for sponsoring this video. Going back to the iPhone 16 as a whole, there aren't many other visual design changes except for the new color options this year. The one that I have here is teal, and I do quite like the look of it, but there's also like the flagship color, which I think is ultramarine. There's pink, black, and white options as well. The cameras are laid out in this vertical orientation, and this is so that you can now shoot spatial photos and videos for the Apple Vision Pro. There are some other new camera-related features this year for iPhone 16, including new updates to photographic styles and the ability to edit these styles by swiping around on this little tone mapping pad here until you get the photo to more of your liking. You can do this before you shoot the photo or edit the photo on the go and adjust the style later, or completely remove it if you end up changing your mind. You can also swipe through these various styles and adjust the tone mapping using the camera control button. Now, I do like this update to photographic styles, and the ability to swipe around and kind of adjust the tone and the color and really dial in your look without having to do a ton of complex editing is really nice. It's the kind of editing that's just like you swipe around and you kind of get a feel for it, more so than like dial in specific numbers. Now, when I do my full camera review later next week, I'll be sure to have an entire section dedicated to this. So of course, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video. One feature that I also think is really cool is the new audio mix feature, and when it works really, really well. There are a few different modes and styles to choose from that emphasize different aspects of the audio, and then you can adjust via the slider at the bottom to really dial things in and kind of get that good mix. You can definitely hear how crisp and isolated the subject can be compared to the background noise, but of course, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think? Do you think you can hear a difference between the mixes? I think with in frame, you can definitely tell that when I'm talking, because I'm in frame, you hear me really, really well. All the background noise is isolated. The person holding the phone is speaking and you can barely hear them. Then you can kind of bring in the rest of the people and stuff around you going on with cinematic, and then there's studio, which is supposed to be like podcast grade style microphones for the audio that you might be pointing at. And so I would love to hear from you again in the comments down below. Which one do you like better? I'm gonna play them all. Would love to hear your thoughts. All right, so this is the audio mix, and so there are 4 different options, right? There's standard, there's the studio, there's what, I don't remember the 4. In-frame mix and cinematic, right? Is that the other one? Yep. So there's 4. We're in a semi-noisy environment. There's cars going by. There are people all around having conversations, and so I'll be cycling through the different sounds, and then we can see which one sounds better. Now, the cameras themselves have also been updated a little bit, and we will, of course, again, have a full camera review for one of these devices here in the future, most likely the Pro or Pro Max. And then we'll eventually do some more camera stuff with the iPhone 16, maybe against the 15 or 14. But here are a few camera samples right now from the 16. These are obviously just straight point and shoot with no edits, unless otherwise noted. If I put a photographic style applied, I will let you know. But yeah, would love to hear your thoughts again on these photos in the comments down below. I think these cameras are pretty solid overall. If you don't need a telephoto lens, I think you're going to be happy with the range of focal lengths that you have, due to the sensors being so large and the ability to crop in. But again, comments, let me know what you think. And that's really it in terms of those bigger changes. It's mostly camera related features this year. Obviously, we do have the new A18 chip, and that's going to give you Apple Intelligence. But as of right now, when you first get the iPhone 16 or 16 Plus or 16 Pro or Pro Max, whatever it is, you're not getting Apple Intelligence until next month. And when you do, it'll be those features that were only available right now on 18.1, and other features will be dropping later on in the year. You do get better performance and that battery efficiency, but I can't really speak to that right now since I haven't spent enough time with it yet, but we will in future review. You'll also get hardware accelerated ray tracing for gaming, but I mean, that's really it in terms of what's new for the iPhone 16 this year. It's a very good phone, and at that starting price of $799 for the standard 16 and $899 for the 16 Plus, I think it's a really hard phone to beat for most people out there. I think this year, if you're planning to upgrade, I'd obviously hold off if you have a 15 and maybe a 14 for that iPhone 17 upgrade that we've been hearing so much about, unless you absolutely want the action and camera control buttons. Now, if you're a 12 or 13 owner and you need a new phone, this is going to feel like a pretty dramatic upgrade for you. I think you'll be happy. But yeah, leave comments, let us know, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more of our coverage on all of the new devices that came out today in the next week or two. This has been Nate with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you around in the next video.